Hello, fellow travelers. This is Veronica from Human Design Journey, and we're going to look at the daily transit, the weekly, actually, transit. So, on the 30th of March, the sun entered the 21st gate, the gate of biting through. This gate is about the hunter, the huntress. It's in the ego, and it's part of the channel of the money line, a design of materialist. The harmonic gate is the 45th gate, gathering together, and it's part of the ego circuit. So the 21st gate is the only outlet of the ego towards the throat. So it's part of a manifesting channel. And biting through is the power for life of the material plane. It's a great conditioning force in the world, and it demands control. Where you live, what you wear, what you eat. So this gate cannot afford to have a boss leaning over their shoulder. It's the gate of the hunter, the huntress, and it's their ego drive to dominate. There is a need for control, where when the situation doesn't allow for control, then the power cannot be fulfilled of the ego. Basically, when not in control, there is no possibility for success here. And on the other side, we have the 48th gate. So we're grounding. The earth is in the gate of depth, the well, where the grounding and balance is. It's in the spleen center. So it's about the well-being. The first line, warning, the use of force as a last resort, the fierceness to be respected without recourse to action, the willpower and ego to ensure respect, and an inherent peacefulness that all too often turns a necessary warning into a plea, a lack of willpower that is forced to ask for respect. So we can have it, the use of the force as last resort. It's introspective, authoritative line, the first line of the biting through. It's a warning. But we have an open ego, so it can be quite exaggerated. The willpower to ensure respect or inherent peacefulness turning into a plea. Then tomorrow we have the second line, might is right, of the 21st gate, which is the legitimacy of action in response to flagrant and persistent interference, the powerful and extreme reaction here. The severest action will be the most successful, the legitimate rejection of interference on the material plane. And the other side, the tendency to regret severity, no matter how legitimate. The ego, uncontrollable with severity. It comes naturally here, might is right. Where the third line, powerlessness, where they are just condemned to a futile confrontation with superior forces. On one hand, we have defeat as a survivable humiliation, often acceptable through the abuse of drugs and alcohol, unless one follows one's own material path, the breaking of the ego by superiors. And the other side, total withdrawal, a lack of will for the material path in order to protect the ego. Powerlessness. That's an interesting line. The third line, trial and error process. It can be the most successful on the material plane or not. Condemned to a futile confrontation with superior forces. Then we have the fourth line, strategy. And have in mind, the ego is open. So there can be either overdoing or either being too willful or egoistic or over valuing yourself, or more often the other way, undervaluing yourself, giving promises here and there which you cannot fulfill, comparing yourself, etc., etc., etc. So beware, aware of of exaggerating this energy. So we have in the fourth line, strategy, careful appraisal of opposing forces to establish a proper response, success in action through clarity, the ego to succeed on the material plane, and the instinct to use willpower effectively in response to conditions. Let me share with you my I Ching. So then we have the fifth line of objectivity. The use of force must be based on impartiality and not emotionally motivated. A principled and legal character that ensures objectivity, the balanced ego whose willpower is applied objectively, or the drive for elimination is so powerful that objectivity is related purely to cause and not affected. The ego whose willpower is applied subjectively. So here we will have a lot of projections about the use of force and wanting to bite through that force. But as you see, either principled and legal character to ensure objectivity, or the drive for elimination, that objectivity not affect. Subjectively, basically, objectivity and subjectivity. And then in the sixth line, we have the chaos, where ineffective action leads to disorder, the war of attrition, the continuance of legitimate action in the hope of eventually succeeding despite all odds, and increasing disorder. Where the ego is out of touch, the display of willpower leads to disorder. And the other side, withdrawal and reliance on inner order, and a chaotic situation where the material direction is chaotic, the ego will withdraw and use its power to find an inner order. That's what's going on in the 21st gate. And then the 24th gate, the gate of the well, the depth. This is where the energy is being grounded. So these willful energies being grounded in intuitive energy, which is about detail and depth, and you don't know how much information you have stored there. In the first line, it will be insignificance, an instinctive recognition of what is practical and deserves attention, a taste for recognizing what is practical and deserves attention. And the other side, an ego tendency to apply energy to trivial considerations, a taste for trivia. Having in mind that that's the first line, it's about investigation and research. So here we have it in detriment also. So we have the tendency to apply the energy for trivial considerations and not for what it's used to, because this is part of the mm, um, taste. It's about taste here. It's part of the stream of taste. So whether it's to your liking is also important. And here we have the taste for trivia, for trivial things. Let's look at the other lines, which is what is going on. Okay, let's look for the 45th, 48th, excuse me. Just a second. Here we are. So we have the necessary and qualitative foundation that is a prerequisite to establish the common good. And in the second line, we have degeneracy, the awareness that to successfully establish a new form, one cannot neglect the most positive attributes just to accommodate inferior elements. This would lead to deterioration, a confidence in awareness to resist inferior influences. And the other side, the misguided urge for harmony that degenerates when associated with inferior values into decadence, a lack of confidence in awareness that invites interference and decadence. That's why it's called degenerate. And although it might sound negative, actually this can be quite positive in where it's correct. So this is the importance of being correct. Who says that decadence is necessarily always negative? It can be the stone which turned the cart and stopped some real degeneracy and degenerative stuff to happen. And then in the third line, we have the comunicado, symbolized by the moon phase, where the potential of light is unrecognized, unavailable, and unknowable. That's the trial and error process of the third line. The most mutative redeeming value is in the transience of such a stage, which can give strength to those so afflicted, where the development of taste and depth is a long-term process. And the other side, the profound anxiety, when a profound intelligence is forgotten in the wilderness. The tendency in the long-term process, development of taste and depth to anxiety. So this is about recognizing that depth is a long-term process. It keeps the well keeps growing in a sense via trial and error process, where this development of taste and depth of knowledge, and here it's also the theory of inadequacy, can lead to anxiety. If you're correct, that will also be correct. Don't forget that we're looking at the transit field, and this is the conditioning forces in the environment. So those can either be in our benefit to expand our consciousness, or there's nothing there for us, depending on our strategy and inner authority. In the fourth line, restructuring, restructuring, the good sense to take advantage of a restriction on short-term activity to assess the situation and restructure for long-term goals that will facilitate development when activity resumes. The awareness, the depth, and its possible expression will face restrictions with a resulting taste for short-term projects. And the other side, a resistance to restructuring or speculation, with a tendency when activity resumes to have to do so anyway, a taste for long-term projects that will be frustrated in restraint if there is nothing to influence and be fixed in your depth, in restructuring your depth along along the line of restriction on short term. Yeah, so you're waiting for the opportunity, and if there is no network to assist the resisting to restructuring on speculation, then there is nothing to speculate with. So it will be frustrated in restraint or not. Then we go the next day into the fifth line, the action, where projections are about the natural urge to apply energy to action, a taste for action. People will be dreaming that this is what depth is about. It's about action. Or the other side, an over-reliance on the need for protection that in times of social renewal is obsessed with the details of planning at the expense of action. Insecurity with one's depth that can fail to take action. So the mature energy will be to go head first into the deep, dive into the deep and go for the action, or being projected that that's the best way to do, or overplan and not take action. And then the sixth line, self-fulfillment, the undiminishable resources. The value center that as it gives, it receives and thus cannot continue to give. A depth and potential talent that is out of value to others. That is of value to others, excuse me. A tendency, the other side, to superficiality that, though generous and nurturing, will lack inspirational quality that can transform its gift into a common currency. Where the depth is limited, the taste will be superficial and affect the quality of the possible talent. So these will be about self-fulfillment, and 48 gate is a very interesting gate, actually. It's in the spleen center, and it is pointing towards the 16th gate, the gate of talent, and the gate of, the gate of skills. Together they form the channel of talent. So the 48th gate always looks for skills and talents, and the 16th gate always looks for depth and details. So the 48th gate always lacks energy, looking for energy, looking for that skill to develop in order to be able to communicate its depth. And this is what's grounding us this week. So being in balance is, and controlling things is connected to the depth and the detail, to go deeper into the well. since the well is a resource, a pool, and the awareness possibility is to store vital information as a pattern. Its depth, its quality is dependent on what has results from judgmental processes. The well opens up the possibility of expression through potential connection to the throat. And without depth, the common good can never be established because it's part of the understanding circuit and its logic process. So the well is depth that is available in the moment based on the potential to judge a situation in the now. It's about sharing this depth and this information, no matter how trivial it is. So that's what's gonna go around us, and that happening in the 27th and 28th gate as nodes. They're there for quite some time, so a lot of control and looking for understanding and skill and taste in greedy environment, obsession with having much more than one needs, the psychological manifestation, obsession and dependency of knowing what is hidden, and whether sexually, mentally, or materially, and the lust for power to get more than one needs. And the other side, the 28th gate, preponderance of the great game player, adventurism, unfounded risk-taking, an intuitive caution in risk-taking in times of struggle, or rationalizing, excuse me, of risk-taking. Then we have the moon in the driving force in the 56th gate, the wanderer, first line quality, the practical sense that even short-term activity should be of value, expression of practical ideas that have value, is going to be the focus of the driving force and the focus of the mind of the people around us. But people are going to be communicating and thinking about growth and increase via trial and error process. So in times of increase, and mistakes are a natural part of the process. The energy and assertion to turn mistakes into advantages, the power to accept mistakes as part of growth, or a moodiness that in error may succumb to brooding and unnecessary caution. Mistakes give power to moodiness and caution. Looking to finish things and eventually grow. So this is what people will be communicating about around us. Then the values in relating are in the second gate, the fourth line, the receptive, the gate of direction of the self, secretiveness, more than modesty, the ability to persevere harmony through discretion. The higher goal transcends personal acclaim. The team player acknowledged as the leader, but never the captain, where higher honoring does not have to be expressed to be recognized. And we also have the unusualness, chaos, and innovation in the same line. So there will be secrets going on, and secret alliances is the fourth line, the line of friendship, the line of alliances in secret. Those are really strange times, and we have the Martian energy, which is quite immature, dynamic, explosive, is in the fifth line sensitivity, the gate of extremes, the ability to sense when otherwise balanced behavior must be adjusted to meet the requirements of changing environment. So on one hand, we have the power to grow, the capacity of the self to grow through experiencing the extremes, the tendency to overcompensate, the drive of the self to overcompensate and disturb the flow. So all of this can be, as you see, with all this greed and control and detail, depth, communicating, stimulating, talking about quality, greedy, and with adventurism and taking risks. Those extremes can, with this dynamic energy, can be quite a thing. So although this is a reflector day about reflecting stuff in your own design, all of this will be giving some coloring. It will be connecting with you in a way. So reflecting on things, but maybe a lot of disappointments will be in the air, especially about and being extreme in those disappointments, and especially about the themes that are here. Also, we have the 51st gate, the arousing, the gate of shock in Jupiter, law and protection. In the 4th line, limitation, a pure inventiveness and sometimes genius to find some opportunity even in the midst of most devastating shocks. The warrior ego that will find some way to answer the challenge. A reasoned make-do mentality that is effectual in times of severe shock. The superficial ego that lacks the resources and depth to answer challenges. So we have also the gate of shock, the ability to respond to disorder and shock through recognition and adaptation. But here in the 4th line, limitation. So only when you have the opportunity to do that, and otherwise you wait. But especially for people who would have, for instance, the 25th gate on the other side, this and undefined one of the two or both centers, these will be quite challenging because it will push them to overpromise, to be in competition with the others, wanting to be first. So all of this can trigger things and make you very disappointed at the end if you don't follow your strategy and your authority. We have the discipline and limitation in the 55th gate, the gate of spirit, abundance. In 3rd line, innocence. Here I was only following orders as a defense, genuine defense. It in the exaltation, when the form is correct and attempts its actualization have been disciplined and within guidelines, failure cannot be personally attributed. The emotional possibility to recognize that despite one's best efforts, failure is possible and does not need to affect the spirit. That's how we're going to be limited. So maybe the limitation is that you do not have the emotional possibility to recognize that. Despite best efforts, the spirit can still be affected. But if you're correct, then you will not be limited in that. Then we have still the gate of crisis, the darkening of the light in the 4th line, espionage, until year 2025 will stay here, Neptune. So it's about illusion and spirituality and transcendence. But right now is the 4th line, which is an interesting line. The realization that knowledge, both covert and esoteric, is necessary for one to be prepared to crisis and change and accumulate secret or privileged information to prepare for and anticipate for decline. Or the other side, the tendency in recognizing the strengths of the opposition to accept the inevitability to decline and rather than resist, to offer one's services to guarantee survival, the double agent. Crisis knowledge that is available to others for a price. And knowing the human mind, which is arrogant and thinks that it is the best, or it can outsmart life. The double agent can be quite a darkening of the light, where the opportunity arises. Opportunity for espionage. That's what's going on in the air for quite a long time. At the last times of the cross of planning, a lot of planning will be done. It's crazy, crazy, crazy what's going on. And we only feel it. We don't even know. We cannot put the finger on it. This is Pluto. It's delusional. It's diluting. The water is diluting our vision. So we don't know. We cannot put the finger on it. But we will have consequences. And those are new. 36 gate is part of the channel of Jack of all trades. So it's looking for new experience. It's a manifestor, part of a manifestor channel. So going to new territories. I am really, really wondering. A lot of books can come out of this if we survive it. Pluto again in the fourth line. So a lot of fourth line and third lines and first line. So investigation, trial and error, mutation, discovery, projection, but also a lot of opportunities are in the air, or not possibilities in your network. They come from your network. So we have here transformation and psychology in the gate of acceptance, gate of limitation, resourcefulness, the reason, the intelligent maximization of potential within limitations, the maximization of potential within limitation, or the tendency to, in times of limitation, to seek the inner meaning of the restriction rather than using its gifts to find a harmonic application within the limitation. So the former leads to withdrawal and the latter to transcendence, whether you find your way within the limitations, thus transcending them. The energy to know rather than accept limitation at the expense of possible mutation, leading to depression when nothing changes. But Pluto in the pulse is bringing us change, is bringing us mutation, is bringing us the new species, the wraiths, which will start coming out of the womb of some human after 2027, bringing the new finished mutation in the solar plexus as an awareness system. So this will be the weather for this week. And remember, it's only the weather, only the transit field. Reflective days are ahead. And not all the time. At some point, the third gate gets activated. So we will have lots of mutation or stagnation going on. Watch it, reflect, so that the ultimate judgment can come out of that. This is Veronica from Human Design Journey. Like and subscribe, or visit my website, humandesignjourney.com, or Instagram, Human Design Journey. And I'll give more. See you soon. Bye for now.